Hey everybody! I have absolutely no idea if anybody's going to tune into this. This is more of a trial run. We want to start doing election night broadcasts on the Bayou Progressive soon, and so this is me trying to iron out the kinks. In the future, we'll have people that chime in, give their opinion. Hopefully, we'll be able to check in with some of the candidates as election night returns come in. Uh, for right now, though, this has just become a little bit of a stressful situation. I can't connect my Facebook page for whatever reason. It tells me that I'm not the admin on my Facebook page, and no matter what I do, no matter how many browsers I try to use, it still tells me it won't connect. And all of these platforms cost so much money just to do the bare minimum because they want you to then upgrade and spend even more. And I get it for the people that are making money on these platforms and doing live streams on a regular basis. I am sure that these tools are worth $150 a month. But for people like me that have a whole bunch of other things that I'm paying for, and I very rarely ever do live streams, $150 to be able to stream on 5 or 6 different channels is that's steep. So I'm still trying to figure all of this out for my own individual live stream, so that we're able to do something a little bit more comprehensive, particularly as we get into 2026 and the midterms, because we'd like to be able to do a little bit more election coverage. That would be great, just to have everybody uh, with us and watching as the results roll in. As you can see on the screen right here, and I probably this would be better if it was actually facing me a little bit. As you can see on the screen we have right here. Um, so today is October 11th. We here in Louisiana we had a handful of elections across the state. Here in Baton Rouge, we had two things that were on our well, we had three. We had three things that were on our ballot. We had the district court race, the 19th JDC Division O. That was between Dele Adebamaji, Elsie Alford Jr., Vicky Jones, and Vernon Thomas. As you can see, we have all of the early voting and absentee ballots are in, and Vicky Jones took a very, very, very strong lead in that. We'll see what turnout is. It's not looking great, to be fair. Out of 169 precincts with 43 reporting, we have about 7,000 votes in right now, almost 8,000. And Vicky Jones has a very strong lead. She's at 49%. Here in Louisiana, for most races, you have to clear 50%. And if you don't clear 50% in the first race, then you and the second place finisher go on to a runoff. Right now, it looks like Vernon Thomas is in second place, but they're really all bunched together there. I mean, when you're talking about, 1,500 votes for second place, 1,300 votes for third place, it does look like Elsie may, we'll see where his strongest precincts are, but you know, it, yeah. Let's look at the precincts first. Let's look at where things are coming from before we start to make any before we start to have any conclusions here. And I can see that you guys can't see everything. This is a little bit irritating. Let's see. Can we? Let's do. I don't know if that's any better. Let's do this. Uh, uh, I mean, I don't care if you can see me. But okay, so we are looking. Let's see the. Okay, this is how many possible voters there are. Let's see. Okay, so this is how many possible voters there are in EBR parish. That's why I'm saying that if we're at 7,000, 8,000 voters, and we have about a little less than a third. I think that's right. A little less than a third in. It's still promising to be fairly low turnout. But let's see. Okay. Okay. So precinct, and let me see if I can get PR precinct map. That way we can follow all of this together. I'm just pulling up the precinct map so that you all can see what it corresponds to. Okay. Okay, I'm trying to see if I can get. There we go. All right. All righty. So I'm going to, let's see, maybe I can add another. Can I add another screen? Okay. I think I can add another screen. Okay, I can't. Okay, that's fair. That is fair. Okay, so how do I close this? Okay, golly. Okay, I'm trying to figure this out all while there we go. Okay, so let's go back to where we were. Okay, so oh man, I see what's happening. Okay, yeah, let's do this. That's a little bit better. You guys are learning with me, or at the very least, just watching me fall on my face. Okay, so right now you got 43 precincts that are reporting, and as you can see, you know, and this is what we do as candidates on election night. We are looking precinct by precinct, and we have a good idea of how many votes you're probably going to get out of each precinct. Um, when you start having margins like this, though, this is. I know it seems small because you're talking about 34 votes altogether in precinct 26. Let's see where that is. I wish this was it. There we go. Share this tab. So precinct 26. Can I see the map? Precinct 26. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit difficult, and everything's moving very slowly. I don't want to force you all to have to deal with all this. This is miserable. Okay. I think it's because I'm live streaming that everything's moving very slowly because like I'm moving my mouse and then it takes like 10 seconds for. There we go. All right. So here we are. We're in the 20s. So you're talking about, okay, that's 25. Okay. So this is precinct 26. So you're talking about, okay. Yeah, over by sort of Delmont. Come on. Q. Okay, yeah, over by Prescott. Okay, so it's over by Prescott Middle. And yeah, I mean, you're talking, even though it's only 34 votes, her next closest person with 20, she having 22 votes, Vicky Jones, her next closest person, is 17 votes behind. And when you start adding those sort of margins up, you know, 28 votes. I mean, nobody's even clearing double digits in some of these. So clearly, she certainly has a strength in North Baton Rouge. And when you're talking about an all Democratic race, even though I want to be clear, when we say all Democratic race, not everybody. Not even though you're in a Democratic. I'm trying to take my. There we go. I'm trying to take these because I don't need. Sorry. Okay, because you can't see me. There we go. Um, even though you have all Democrats in this race, right? 4 Democrats, not just in Baton Rouge, all over the place. Even though it might look like it's all one party, the truth of the matter is that there's always somebody who is appealing to uh, more conservative voters, and same thing happens in Republican races. Well, actually, I'll take that back. Here in Louisiana, we sometimes as Democrats are hard pressed to get enough candidates to run in the races where we actually could be competitive. So we do not field candidates in heavily Republican districts, but the reverse is true for Republicans running in Democratic seats. And part of it is I do think some of these people, and I'm not trying to cast any judgment on any of the 4 candidates running in this race, but traditionally you will have more mainstream Democratic candidates, and then you'll have a very conservative Democratic candidate that, for all intents and purposes, from an ideological perspective, is a Republican and is appealing to conservative Republican voters. And it's easier to do in the Democratic Party because we are historically a bigger tent party. There are actual small government deregulation conservatives, social conservatives that are Democrats. It does become difficult governing, but they exist. And so in races like this, even though you see 4 Democrats, there is always a candidate that is appealing to the Republicans. And sometimes they frustrate me when I'm running against them because it's like, man, like, why do you even have a D next to your name if none of these values are important to you? But it's a strategic decision that people make. If you're running in a heavily Democratic area, if you're running in a black area, you'd be hard pressed to get a lot of traction as a Republican candidate. So what a lot of people do is they will just register as a Democrat. A lot of people are always surprised that Hiller Moore is a Democrat. He's our district attorney here in Baton Rouge, a very, very conservative man, but he's a Democrat nominally. But that's because he runs in East Baton Rouge Parish. He has to win in East Baton Rouge Parish, and it's a majority Democratic parish. So you put a D next to your name, and most people don't even question it. The R is so hard to overcome in Democratic areas that it's just easier to register as a Democrat, run as a Democrat, but then just articulate conservative positions, and you'll just do better than if you had entered the race as a Republican. But going back to the JDC race, and then I'll go to the Baton Rouge City Court race between Craig and Boudreaux, Kelly Boudreaux. But like, as you can see, just big margins here. We're starting to get a little bit more competitive here, but still Vicky Jones is winning. And let's see if we can find a precinct where she's not. Now, this is part of the dynamics of this race that I'm aware of that's interesting is, yeah, this is there's not enough precincts to call it yet, but boy, And I'll show you. So like these are the 80s here, and it is good to see Dele doing well. And the reason I say that is I'm always, regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of if I support you or not, I respect the folks that keep at it because you have to. Very rarely, and those are the exceptions to the rules, very rarely do you win on your first try. It's hard to win even on your second try. Oftentimes you are winning because, in addition to being a good candidate, each race builds your name recognition. Each race builds your familiarity with the electorate. And particularly here in Baton Rouge, for whatever reason, people will absolutely love you, but will not vote for you until they've seen you on the ballot like 3 or 4 times. And it's a dangerous precedent because, when I was running for council in 2020, I remember that I'd be knocking on doors and people would ask me what my positions were. They'd come to some of these forums and they'd come away really impressed and they'd say, man, I can't wait to vote for you. Stay in it and maybe I'll vote for you next time. And it's like, I don't think that people always understand that there's not always a next time, first of all, but also what you vote for now impacts you now. So this idea that like, oh no, I'm just stacking up, my preferred candidate so that in a couple of years I'll vote for this person, and then in a couple of years I'll vote for that person. That's just not the way that it works. And also, as a candidate, as a former candidate, it is hard to run for office. It is hard to make the decision to run for office. It's hard to get your family on board for runs for office. It's hard to get your friends and your employer, if you work for somebody, to run for office. It's hard financially to run for office. So when you sit there and you find a candidate that you like, but you, for whatever reason, say, I'm going to vote for them the next time that they run, I'm going to be honest with you, the odds are they probably won't run because it's just very, very difficult. And it's, to be fair, it's a little selfish to say that you'll vote for them later because you don't know what the cost was for them just to run in this race. So just keep in mind that if you like a candidate now, then vote for them now. Don't do this weird, psychological thing where you say, well, I want to see them run a couple more times before. If you like them now, if you like what they're saying now, and you think that if you think they're the best candidate in the race now, vote for them now. But all of that was just a rant of me saying Dele has run a lot, and so it is good to see that clearly he's building because there are some of these precincts where he is, he's in second. And I'll say just candidly that I don't think that he has been in this race the second best. Well, you know what? I don't think he's been the second most visible candidate. And yet, and in a place like Baton Rouge, like visibility is everything. And yet, it does look like he really is. He's doing well. He's not going to win. It does not look like he's going to win, but he's doing well, and it's good to see that his hard work in the past has paid off. I am not as familiar with Elsie. I met Elsie for the first time 2 weeks ago at a forum. I don't know very much about Elsie, to be honest with you. Oh, and just as an update, we have gotten more precincts reporting. So we got 95 precincts reporting now out of 169, and in total, let's get back to the. You got to scroll. This is, I will say that I just want a Secretary of State that prioritizes making some of this stuff a little bit more modern and easier to navigate. So we're at 95 precincts in. And like I said, remember, this is out of 134,000 voters. We're over half, and we're at 10,000. So it's going to be another abysmal turnout. And I don't understand this. Everything that you're watching on TV, everything that you're seeing in the news, like all of the bad stuff that's happening, the cost of living that's skyrocketing, the tariffs, the government shutdown, the ICE detentions, just everything. Not to mention all of the nonsense that our own governor is doing. You're seeing all of this political turmoil, and I can almost assure you that what everybody has been telling you is the only remedy to any of this is voting. And the first election that we have, not even the first election, we've had other elections this year, but like the first election, in a long time, in a few months, where you have the benefit of hindsight, you've seen everything that's happening, and we're telling you that the one thing we need you to do is vote, and you don't show up. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. We're not allowed to pay you for your vote. And if we had to pay you for your vote, then honest to God, like our democracy has already failed. I'm gonna be honest. This is really, really depressing to see. And it's kind of pissing me off. It's ruining my night a little bit because we keep doing this. We keep doing this. And it doesn't make any sense. And everybody will have an opinion. Everybody will have an opinion. They'll have political comments online. But folks, the one thing they didn't want to do was vote. People think that they're going to have a bigger impact if they have a really, really, provocative post on social media, but they won't vote. They think their posts on social media will make a bigger difference in the world than casting a ballot. Okay, no, that tracks. That is what a very intelligent, thoughtful person would come to the conclusion of, is that, you know what? I could cast a vote, or I could post on TikTok and talk about how awful the politicians are and how awful the policies are. That makes sense. That tracks. Okay, let's look at some of these other things. So, this I did not have to vote on, but let's go to EBR first, and then we'll go to New Orleans for the mayoral race there. Okay, so as you can see again, Vicky Jones has a commanding lead. At this point, what it looks like, and we'll see, because, like I said, let's look at the precincts again. So, like, this is like downtown and stuff. This is where I live, and that makes sense. Vernon's doing a little bit better here, but also everybody is. Everybody's doing a little bit better here. This is one of the few places where Vicky Jones did not win. LZ won here, which kind of makes a little bit of sense, and because this is my precinct. I've seen more of his signs, particularly in the in Spanish Town, so that does make sense, and that's where the bulk of the vote in downtown comes from, is Spanish Town and Beauregard Town. So I could see that. You always hate precincts like this, where 7 people, 8 people. Come on now, that's insane. And I'll show you again where these early precincts are, the lower number precincts. It's all kind of up against the river downtown. Oh, so actually, I am precinct. Oh no, yep, no, I'm precinct 1. I'm this one here. So this is me. Okay, I'm trying to make this a little bit. Oh, you can't see it. Sorry. Okay, so this is precinct 1. Like I said, it's downtown, but all the kind of single-digit precincts are kind of nearby. So let's see again. Okay, so yeah, we're looking at so LZ won downtown. Vernon did well. He came in second downtown. Surprised that Dele didn't do as well, just because he's a name that people know. Yeah, and these are always, it's always hard. I mean, yes, in a vacuum, a precinct where you get 0 votes, you obviously could make it up in other places, but it's tough because you need to stack votes on top of votes, and if there's even one precinct where you're not getting anything, it's a setback. It is a setback. So you got, precinct 2 over here, 2A, where LZ got 0 votes. Again, it's out of 7, but precinct 2, Dele got 0 votes. I will say that what a very good campaign does, it's so granular that it makes sure that every single precinct, it at least knows it's hard votes. And then anything else is lanyap. Anything else is a pleasant surprise. So, and I don't know what Vicky Jones's campaign looked like in terms of her, campaign strategy and how they've gone about their GOTV and logistics. But for example, if like a good campaign would have known that they had at least 18 votes in precinct 3. And that way, these extra 3, you're like, all right, we're well above, we're well ahead of schedule. Not every campaign can do that, and that costs money. That's a lot of skill and experience. But yeah, with some of these downtown, mid city, and these downtown and mid city precincts, it's going to be tough. I'm going to be honest with you. I think because it's also where the populations are, right? It's a low turnout election, and so precinct 7. Where's precinct 7 at? Okay, so this is precinct 7 here. Oh yeah, this is Garden District right here. Well, so that's the Garden District. So pretty much everything around there is going to be Garden District-y. And I will say that this is fascinating. And part of it, if you haven't been paying attention, part of it, because these are heavily, I was going to say heavily Democratic. The Garden District is an interesting one. It can be a very liberal place, but it's also, it's an interesting place. It's an interesting place. I've done well in the Garden District in the past. It can be a little bit, sometimes more conservative candidates can do better in the Garden District than you would expect. And if you've ever knocked on doors in the Garden District, I think that you sort of understand. Part of it is just that, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. When you have money, even though your heart might be liberal sometimes, I think there's no denying that there are times where conservative policies, particularly at the local level, sound more appealing. And I think that the Garden District is one of those places where, at a national level, it votes a certain way. At a statewide level, often it votes a certain way. But then when you get locally, it can surprise you sometimes. And the reason I say that here is one of the dynamics in this race is that Vicky Jones is a former Republican. Now, she switched parties. She said that in the last election, she did not vote for Trump. But I do find that that's a tough one. That is a tough one. I'm always for people joining the big tent. I'm always for people defecting from the Republican Party, especially right now, because I think that I'd rather you do it now, later than never, because things are bad there, and the longer that you stick around there, the more I question your values and your integrity. But for a former Republican, a fairly recent former Republican, to have secured not only what looks like, at the very least, a first place finish tonight, but for her to have gotten the local Democratic Party's endorsement, that's an interesting one. And I'll have to make some calls next week to find out a little bit more about what went into that process. I've gone through the process myself. I've done it a couple different ways. So the first time I ever did it was during COVID. So we got on a Zoom and I talked to all the executive committee members and told, I answered some questions. I introduced myself. And it is interesting, the questions that are asked. I'll be honest with you. I think that our local DPEC often defers to the person that they they don't want to back a losing candidate, even if that candidate is more closely aligned with like Democratic Party values. But they often will pick the candidate that there's just the least amount of work that's necessary to getting them over the finish line. Sometimes that means it's the most well-known candidate. Sometimes that means it's the candidate with the most money. I'll be curious to see what went into the endorsement process here. This isn't an indictment on Vicky Jones, but that has been one of the things I've looked at a lot in this race is where, where her support is coming from. But it does, yeah. I mean, as you're looking at this, the one thing that you're clearly seeing, very rarely are you seeing any bars even get close to Vicky Jones's yellow bar. Okay, now we got 151. Yep. Okay, so we can actually call this one. Yeah. So Vicky Jones is going to, at the very least, Vicky Jones will be in first place tonight. We do not know whether or not she will be in a runoff, but it is absolutely clear. Like there's not enough votes for anybody to get even remotely close to where she is right now. There's just not enough votes that are out there. So Vicky Jones will be in first place tonight. She very well might win outright and be the next be the next junior judge on the 19th JDC. But the one thing that we do know right now, with 151 out of 169 precincts reporting, is that Vicky Jones will be in first place tonight. And to be completely honest with you, I'm not going to say barring a miracle because she's just over 50%. We'll see what the final numbers are. So I can't tell you like how many votes she would need to make sure that like she stays there. But I do know that there's not enough votes for anybody to come out on top in terms of being the top vote getter. So this is for all intents and purposes what it's going to look like tonight. If she dips below 50%, I'm not going to say, because Vernon and Dele have had strength in some areas. We'll look again. Like they seem to be the ones that were able to. Well, I say that now as I'm looking, and it kind of goes all over the place. Yeah, it is going to be tough. It is going to be tough. I will say that just based on, based on my unofficial analysis, my unprofessional analysis, based on what I know of the electorate here and what I know of the dynamics of this race, I would say that I don't think that LZ has a shot at being in a runoff. I think that LZ is I think for all intents and purposes, LZ Alford Jr. is done for the night. And we'll split. In fact, let me see. Let me see if the advocate has called it yet. No, I don't have anything here. Okay. My computer is moving slow. Very, 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 very slow right now. Okay, let's look at some of these other races while we're here, and then I need to pull something out of the oven in a second. Okay, so we have our city court race right here between Callie Boudreaux and Brendan Craig. Got a chance to help with a forum that they participated in. I think both of them are qualified. You know, they're both Republicans, and one of the questions that I want to ask of any Republican judicial candidate moving forward is, let's be real about what it takes to advance further than electoral uh, than the electoral bench. If you want to get appointed to a federal judgeship in today's Republican Party, it's very clear that fealty to the president is the number one attribute that the White House is looking for. I want to know how judicial candidates reconcile their ambition with their, judicial philosophy, because your judicial philosophy should be almost like a stone in the river. It does not really move. It simply reacts to the facts of the cases that you're seeing. But right now, you pretty much just have to take on the position that if it's in Trump's interest, then I'll rule in favor of it, and if it's against it, then I'll rule against it, in order to get the attention of the White House, and then get an appointment to the federal bench. I'd love to learn. I'd love to learn what Republican candidates, how they feel about that dynamic, about how can I be a good judge, a fair judge, but also if I'm an ambitious judge, how do I make sure that I'm in the good graces of today's Republican Party? I think there's a real conflict there that I'd love to be able to explore with some of these candidates. But as of right now, yeah, especially with a low turnout race, Brendan Craig would have to clear. Whew, what is that? 2,300. Yeah, he'd have to clear 2,300 votes, and there's not enough precincts. So I can pretty confidently call this one for Callie Boudreaux. Callie Boudreaux will be the next judge on the city court. So congratulations to Judge-elect Callie Boudreaux. And then for me here, because I live downtown, I had a tax renewal, which passed. It's for the Downtown Development District. I'll be honest with you. I actually voted against. I actually voted against this tax renewal, and my biggest qualm is I'm not a big fan of the hold the Downtown Development District has on downtown. I think that the city should have a little bit more control over what should be the crown jewel of the city. And I am not a big fan of the way that downtown development has gone about the development of downtown. And so it wasn't that I don't want downtown to have the resources to continue to evolve and grow and develop, but I just don't know that downtown development has proven that they are the right vehicle for doing it. I'd love to have a more comprehensive conversation at the Metro Council level about the future of downtown and how we can make downtown grow, but not just through this sort of private business and lens, but from a community lens. Like, what brings people downtown, and not just what brings a certain type of people downtown, but what brings as many people in Baton Rouge downtown. What makes we have so many vacant buildings down here, and part of it is because downtown development has a preference for what businesses make their way downtown and which ones don't. I just want businesses that actually can sustain business down here, that will bring people down here. I don't really care anymore, because some of these I live next door to a building that has been vacant for 2 years. I live across the street from old Chase Bank that has been vacant for like 5 years. Most of the buildings down here, to be honest with you, are either vacant or the what's the word for it? Why can't I think of the word for it? But just like it's a revolving door of tenants. I want some consistency. I want businesses that actually bring people downtown. So I voted against the tax, knowing that it would probably pass, but that was just kind of my little principled opposition. Okay. Concord Estates. This is over behind. It's the neighborhood. If you're from Baton Rouge, you know where Concord Estates is. But if you're not, or if you're sort of new to Baton Rouge, it's the neighborhood on the other side of the tracks when you're going down Perkins after you get to college. So you're going down Perkins, like you're headed to Perkins Row, or you're headed to the mall, and you have Sprouts on one side and these new developments on the right, and on the left you have the railroad tracks, and then behind that is Concord State. So it looks like they voted for to fund their crime prevention district. The crime prevention districts, whether they are actually effective or not, I will say that at the very least, they do seem to have a placebo effect. Once communities that have a crime prevention district and they fund it seem to just be safer. And I don't know that, I don't know what the data is, but I think it's sort of like if you have a school that has an active PTA, it's probably a better performing school, not because it has an active PTA, but if it's a school where the parents are willing to be active, then that's sort of an indication of other good things about that school. I think that's similar to the what a crime prevention district indicates, which is if you have one and if the community was proactive enough uh, to try to get one established, it's usually an indication that this is a diligent community that cares and is invested, and there are a lot of things that flow from that. And I don't know okay. This is one for Southern Heights. Parcel fee not to exceed $100. Okay, well, you know what? If they like it, I love it. I usually don't necessarily have an opinion on on like very very localized tax renewals and things like that. If people vote for it and they like it, then that's what our democracy's for. And it's for you to be able to articulate your voice and express what your interests are, and for hopefully policymakers to follow through on that. All right, so that's everything for Baton Rouge. Let us go to Orleans. Where are we at? Where's? I guess it'd be Jefferson, wouldn't it? No, Jefferson and Orleans. Okay, so we gotta go to multi-parish. Sorry. Oh. Okay. There we go. Okay. Oh wow. Okay, I was not prepared for that, so I'm not gonna comment on some of these other races because I don't live in New Orleans, and so I don't want to. And I did not get involved in any of the Orleans races, so I don't want to give commentary on stuff that I am completely ignorant to. But I'll just kind of look through some of these. Um, this is an interesting one. This is an interesting one for one because there were some very very vicious things that were said in this at large race here. Um, I'm not a big fan of the Democrat on Democrat violence and things like that. But like there were some very very vicious things that were said and things that will last beyond the race that I was not a big fan of. As Democrats in this state, we don't we don't have we don't have the capital to start taking out our own, and so this I didn't like where some of the rhetoric in this race just that I was privy to went to, but that's the only thing I'll say on that one. I guess the other commentary here is it is interesting that Democrats in the state legislature, Matthew Willard is a state rep, uh, are really kind of trying to get out of the legislature and go home or seek other offices. Part of it is obviously it's depressing to be in the super minority. Like it just is. It sucks to be in the super minority. But to leave the legislature only makes it worse, right? It only makes that circumstance worse. Matthew Willard is a smart guy, and so that's some brain drain that is coming out of the legislature. But such is life. Everybody makes their own decisions. Let me see what else before we get to the mayor's race. Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything else here. I'm trying to see if I know. Do I know any of these people? Everybody knows Nooney. Okay. I don't think I know JP Morrell. Yeah. Sometimes I'll be surprised that there's like an old friend of mine that's running. That makes me a bad friend if the first time I know that they're running is when I see them on here. All right, let's look at the mayoral race. Oh, okay. So I'm not going to do the precinct break. Okay, I don't know why I just did that. I'm not going to do the precinct breakdown because I'll be honest, I'm not as familiar with the precincts in Orleans, so I don't want to. I can't give you the same analysis that I can give you for Baton Rouge. Um, there were a bunch of different dynamics at play here. Again, remember that this is another Louisiana race, so the winner has to clear 50%. Otherwise, they go into a runoff with the second place finisher. Um, the major two candidates in this race, I guess you could say three. The biggest names in this race were uh, Helena Moreno, Royce Duplessis, and Oliver Thomas. Um, if I'm not mistaken, I believe. Let me see. No. I think who was the one that? I want to make sure I say this right. Okay, so as I was looking up because I thought that there were I couldn't remember which candidate had dropped out and endorsed Royce. And I like Royce. I really do. I think Royce is one of the more principled members of the state senate. And to be honest, like from a strictly like numbers game, we need him in the Senate more than we needed him as mayor of New Orleans. But there's a lot of other dynamics that are at play with the mayoral race. Let me first, because it looks like, golly, so many pop-ups. Boy, I tell you. What is happening? I'm trying to pull it up. The local news website down in New Orleans is very, very, very irritating. Okay. But this is what I was going to show. So it looks like, and I don't know. I wish that I could. Can I do this? Make it a little better. There we go. So they're calling it. Yeah. WWL is calling the New Orleans race for Moreno. So what's interesting about that, obviously, you know, it's good to have a Democratic mayor. I don't know the last time New Orleans has had a Republican mayor. It's good to have a Democratic mayor, but there were some factors at play. Give me 1 second because I think I'm burning something. I will be right back. Okay, I am back. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the dynamics that are at play here. Let me see if I can get myself back on here. I have no idea how to use these. Ah, here we go. I'm back. Okay, and there goes my lights. Let's see. Okay. Living room on. We got some light. All right. So one of the dynamics at play in the New Orleans mayoral race that resonates beyond New Orleans, and it's something that was, I don't know how explicitly it was talked about in the actual race um, down there by the candidates, but I certainly know that it was talked about amongst the people, which is that there is a feeling in New Orleans, particularly uh, among Black folks, that Black political power is slipping in New Orleans, and so unfortunately, this race was less about, a race between two Democrats, and sort of one of the undercurrents was that this was a race for the heart and soul of political power in New Orleans between Black folks and white liberals slash sort of, yeah, I guess just white folks. And from a national perspective, even from I won't say from a statewide perspective, because I know that there are some very strong feelings regarding this race that I heard all the way up in Shreveport. Um, there are a lot of different feelings about this that people have. From a national perspective, I think that it's probably a wash. From a macro perspective, the policies are largely going to be the same. I anticipate that Royce will probably be, at some point when he gets over this race, he'll probably be a strong ally to Mayor-elect Moreno. But I can't understate how important um, the element of race was in this particular one. I hate that it was. Nobody likes these sort of racially polarized races. Nobody likes when it comes down to you know messaging about prioritizing your skin color over everything else. That's not great. But I will say that there is some real substance to the fear. Um, there is a feeling that Black folks are being pushed out of New Orleans, both literally, like in terms of where they live, but also politically. And I do think that for a lot of people, they saw this race as a bellwether for where Black political power is in Louisiana right now, because New Orleans is our largest city. It's sort of the biggest platform from a city perspective that you have here. And so a mayor of New Orleans is a big deal. Now, obviously, New Orleans has had white mayors before. The last mayor uh, before Cantrell was white, right? He's the guy that we're trying to get to run for something statewide. We'll see if he does. And, that guy's dad was the mayor of New Orleans. So we have had white mayors before. It's not the end of the world. Um, there are a whole lot worse things that are happening in politics right now than New Orleans electing a white mayor. And, I have no doubt that Moreno will do a good job. Hopefully we can move past this current administration and some of the scandals and just the overall vibe of it. I think that there were some highs, the response to COVID, but on balance, I'm always maybe even more critical of Black leadership when it falls into these questionable ethical areas, because I do still prescribe to the belief that as Black folks, we have to be twice as good just to get just as far, if not half as far. You might think that that's unfair, but that's just life. Life is unfair sometimes. So you know, we should, this idea that, Black politicians should be given a break, they're not going to be given a break. The spotlight is going to be brightest on them. And when they screw up, they're going to have less margin for error. You should go in knowing that, and you should operate accordingly. So, I'm always disappointed when when in the aftermath of Black leadership, it makes it harder for Black folks to get that same job later on. And I'm not saying that Moreno won because the current black mayor, had some stumbles. But I am saying that, that stuff does add up. Pretending like it doesn't help us in any way, shape, or form. Um, I during I think it was during my last race, or it might have been the congressional race. I remember talking with some white liberals here in Baton Rouge that confided in me, and I guess it's because I'm the proper speaking black guy. I don't know. I have no idea, but they confided in me that you know, that they notice when black leaders get caught stealing or get caught doing this, or when asked a question don't answer it as clearly. Like they notice these things. They're not grading us on a curve. And so we have to put our best foot forward every single time. And I don't care that it's unfair. I really don't. I don't have any sympathy for the people that are like, well, it's unfair, so I'm going to operate at a lesser than capacity, and then I'm just going to keep on reminding people, hey, remember, like, you need to grade me on a curve. No, 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 no. Like, if you get elected mayor, if you get elected governor, if you get elected senator or representative, whatever you get elected to, you are expected to do that job to the best ability possible, not to the best of your ability, to the best ability possible. Otherwise, voters shouldn't have voted for you. They should have voted for somebody that can do a better job. Nobody owes you a political job. Nobody owes you their vote. You are not owed an office. You have to earn it. And then once you do, you have to, maintain it the same way that a white person in that job has to maintain it, the same way that, if you're not a lawyer, but you ran for a job that mostly lawyers often run for, you're still going to be judged accordingly. You do not get, you don't get to change what the criteria is because you may not have certain, certain qualities that people who held the job before you had. You have to do the job at a high level. And so, I don't know that the result in New Orleans is a result of, the current mayor's situation. But the current mayor situation, I can promise you, did not help. It did not help black candidates in New Orleans. That's just the reality of it. In the same way that, we had a politician here locally that got caught up in yet another scandal. I mean, and it's a scandal that like feels like we've been here before with this politician, and that weighs on every other black male politician that's going to run for office here, because he's a high profile black male politician, and every time he screws up, whether it's fair or not, there are people that will be like, well, we had a black person in this seat before, and he did this and he did that, and this like all of us. I don't know if all of us were, but I know I was taught growing up that how I acted had a direct impact on the next black kid that came behind me. I wish that some of our politicians acted that way, understanding that it's not just about opening up a door because you're there. How you perform is whether it determines whether or not that door stays cracked open. And so, yeah, that's my diatribe. Let's get back to Baton Rouge. That's the mayoral race. Like I said, it looks like the local media is calling it for Moreno, and that makes sense. I mean, you're at 2/3 of the precincts reporting, and it looks like it's going to be a low turnout race. Let me see. What is the I'm going to be disappointed by this, but I'm going to look at the. Okay, so it's not the worst. It's not the worst turnout, but it's certainly not the best. So is that a 262,000 voters, and right now it's looking like we're probably going to end the night maybe 120,000, 130,000 votes. So 50%. It's still awful. I think it's still awful because, again, this is not. I want to be clear when we talk about voter turnout and the numbers. This is not the total people that live there. This is the total people that could have voted in this race. These are not the folks who. I just wanted to, because I'm reading the little note. These are not folks who have been purged. These are not just everybody who's 18 and older. This is people who could have voted in this race, were registered voters, were qualified to vote in this race. 262,000. It looks like we're probably going to get about 120, 130,000 that voted. Is that better than Baton Rouge? Absolutely. But is it good? No. All of these people could have voted and didn't. Let's go back to Baton Rouge. Yep. Okay. So it is not. Yeah. There's. Let me see what the precincts are. But I. There's no way. There's no way. So let's see. What precincts are not reporting yet? Precinct 04. Let me see where that is. That's over. Oh, okay. Yeah. Some of these, like when you talk about like downtown and whatnot, some of these have no residential areas. So I anticipate that like 04 is probably going to be. Let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah. I was about to. Yeah. Okay. Well, no, there's certainly a residential area here. This is downtown east over here. Oh no, this isn't. No, this isn't. Not bad. No, this is sort of the how would I describe it? I guess this is the I don't know the directions, but it's part of the Garden District, but it's the I guess the poorer part of the Garden District a little bit. But this is mostly downtown east. Um, a lot of homelessness is in this part of town. So, but there are people who live here. There are plenty of people who live here. So that is not great to not have any. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right, now we got everybody reporting in. 47. Oh, sorry. Let me. Okay, so yeah, so Vicky Jones has won. She has won outright, and yeah, now all the precincts are reporting. Let's see, where's the lowest? Okay, so I am about to shame some young people in a second because this is always something that all of us who have worked on campaigns, uh, this is a constant frustration, particularly here in Baton Rouge. I'm almost positive that the LSU number is going to be abysmal, but let's go over here and look at Southern. Now, this is just going to be the students that live on campus, but all right, so we're talking about precinct 100. Okay, let's go over here. I hope I'm not about to shame anybody. Like, I hope I'm pleasantly surprised. Jesus. I mean, oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? That's 10 votes. That's 10 votes from Southern University's campus. That's 10 people who voted that live on Southern University's campus. 10. 10. I mean, I don't. I'm gonna try to fix this light. I'll be right back. But this is. Let me see if I can get. Let me see if anybody is speaking right now, so that I can give you a little bit of that while I try to fix this light. But that is. Oh, Jesus. 10. That's 10 votes. I mean, it's not like the Avenues did much better out in Scotlandville, but this is showing that like people did know that there was an election nearby. This is crazy. These are the two right here that make up Southern University, the campus itself. That means that 10 students, maybe 10 students that live on campus, thought it was worthwhile enough to vote today. Yo, y'all, come on. Come on. Okay, I'm trying to find trying to see if maybe Vicky Jones or victory speech. Okay, no, we're not finding any yeah. All right. Give me 1 second. Let me fix this light real quick. Okay, everybody. My apologies, but I feel like I may be back. Let's see. Hey! Okay, I got some light again. This is why you should never do these with battery power. Okay, so I'm done with my diatribe about Southern University. I want students to vote, though. You know, like it matters. It does. When you're in college, that is not a break from our democracy. And let's be real, you're not voting back home. You know, I was your age. I've been working on campaigns for a very long time. The excuse that a lot of people give, which is, well, I want to stay registered back home. You're not voting back home. You're not. You're just making an excuse not to vote right now. And now we need you more than ever. So moving forward, register here. Do it today. Go on the Secretary of State's website right now and register here. That's where we need you. This is where you're living. You know, register wherever you live when you live there. But right now you live in Baton Rouge, so you need to register here in Baton Rouge and you need to vote. Like I don't care if it's boring to you. I guess I said I was done with my diatribe, but I'm not. I don't care if it's boring to you. I don't care if, you know, it's not a race that's exciting. It's not a sexy race. I don't care if it requires you to do some homework. So what? It is our democracy. Our democracy is failing right now. Like, this is not an exaggeration. This is not me being melodramatic. This is not the normal, every election is the most important election. Our democracy is failing. Like, unless you are stuck under a rock, this isn't just normal politics. Our democracy is failing. America is failing at the moment. Like, this isn't a game. This is not a game. For us to have low turnout again, y'all, this ain't it, man. This ain't it. Let's see what the overall turnout is. That's insane. 10%. 10%. 10%. 10%. I can't stress this enough to you. That is insane. That is insane. And don't sit here and blame football because you had a whole week of early voting. You knew when the race would be. You knew when the election would be. 10%. 10 voters at Southern University voted. I mean, Jesus, what do you want to see that would make you motivated to vote? Like, what do you want to see? What do you need to see in order to be like, all right, well, now it's worth it. I'm going to go and vote. What is it that you need to see in order to vote? Because things are going to get bad. Things are going to get bad. And keep in mind that Republicans already bank that we're not going to show up to vote. And that's not, and to be fair, that's not just Democrats. That's not just black folks. They are banking that nobody is showing up to vote. Remember what Landry got caught saying to Mike Johnson in D.C.? That, before those 4 amendments were on the ballot, I think back in March? Was it March? Whenever it was? That he was hoping for incredibly low turnout. I think he was looking at like 12%. He was banking on 12% turnout. And lo and behold, because this is what you'll always hear from all the progressive organizations in the state, we showed him with our 22% turnout. I guess. I mean, if you want to celebrate that, folks, this ain't it, man. 10%. 10%. 10%. You know what the turnout was for my state Senate race earlier this year in February? 9.5%. I guess if you want to see some, if there's any silver lining here, I guess it's that it's up a percentage in, what was that, in 8 months? Yo, this ain't it, man. This ain't it. This is awful. This is awful. This is terrible. This is terrible. Like I genuinely believe that it is unjust to live under the sort of mandate of such a small amount of voters. But like, there's nothing else that you can do about it. Can't reschedule the election. Everybody knew when the election was, and even if you did reschedule the election, it's not like people would show up to the rescheduled election. Like what this is clearly people don't give a shit. People don't. They don't care. They do not care. They don't care. And like when you're out there, you see it. You know, I'll be at some of these, community events, and there are just as many people out there passing out flyers talking about elections and voting and all that as there are people that are like openly telling people that they shouldn't be voting, that their vote doesn't matter, and that all of it's stupid. Which I think is the most is. It's one thing if you make the stupid decision not to vote. All right, like that's on you. Do you, homie? It is something completely different when you then go and try to spread that nonsense, that ignorance to other people. Like that, in effect, like you might as well start going door to door in the black community, trying to reignite, the crack epidemic. You might as well just go around passing out crack rocks. Why don't you also go tell kids to drop out of school too? Because that's the level that it's at. Telling black folks not to vote, not only like just expressing your own cynicism, but telling black folks not to vote and that voting doesn't matter, elections don't matter, is at the same level as handing out crack rocks or telling kids to drop out of school. It's that detrimental. It's that ignorant. It's that stupid. If you feel that way, keep that shit to yourself. I'm dead serious. Keep it to yourself. This ruined my night. This really ruined my night to see 10%. I don't care what the outcome of this judicial race was. Like I have met I've met 3 of them relatively intimately. Like I said, I don't know Elsie very well. I think maybe is this Elsie's first race? Let me see. If this is Elsie's first race, then like he did as well as you do on your first race. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking. I don't think Elsie has run before. I think this is also Vernon's first time running as well. This is not Vicky Jones's first time running, and obviously, like I said, Dele has run a couple times before as well. So with that context, I will say that I know that Vernon Thomas is not going to take any solace in this because losing sucks. And having met him, he's a very competitive person. He was not interested in a moral victory. But for your first time running, to come in second place, that's not the worst thing in the world. But again, that doesn't make anybody feel any better. Unless people ran not to win, which is always a stupid thing to do, but some people do it. Obviously the millage passed downtown. Looks like all of the stuff that was brought to voters passed. And like I said, Callie Boudreaux has clearly won in city court. So you'll be seeing her face if you have any traffic tickets. I've had plenty, so here's hoping that I don't have any more times that I have to pay any of those. Jeez, the state of Louisiana has definitely raided my wallet, especially in my 20s. Okay. So Vicky Jones will be the next judge. She's replacing, if I'm not mistaken, Wilson Fields. So Vicky Jones will be the next judge on the 19th JDC. I've gotten to hear her a couple of times. I think that she's certainly very passionate, and so I look forward to hopefully chatting with her a little bit more and figuring out kind of like what her plans are for the bench. She expressed great enthusiasm for uh, external groups that can help reduce recidivism, that could partner with the court to being able to offer the court more resources so that when they're dealing with offenders, that there's more than just sending people to jail, that there are other opportunities for folks to turn their life around. So I'm always encouraged by stuff like that. I'm not I'm not 100% on board with restorative justice as a replacement for our traditional criminal justice system, but I do think that restorative practices are much needed in our system. I think that right now we pretty much just lock people up and throw away the key and then hope that when they get out, they've learned their lesson, and that even in a restricted environment that they're being released into, that they will somehow do better than they did before they had those restrictions. I think that's stupid. We need to think more holistically about crime. And this is not to prioritize the offender, it's to prioritize what our ultimate goal is, which is to reduce crime. And unless you don't care about that, unless your whole thing is, look, crime's going to happen, I really don't care one way or the other, but when crime does happen, I really want to punish the criminals. If that's how you feel, then our current system is pretty good for you. But for most of us, we want to live in a place that doesn't have crime, and if it does have crime, that each and every year it is reduced. So the only way that you do that is you make folks who are likely to commit crimes, especially people who have previously committed crimes before, you make it less likely for them to commit crimes. And sometimes that is going to be solutions that you don't like. Sometimes it's a a job training program, and you'll be like, well, why are we giving them career opportunities when they just broke the law? It feels like we're rewarding them. Take a step back and ask yourself, like, what is more important? Is it more important that you feel like you're really punching the shit out of a criminal, proverbially, or is it important to make sure that that criminal doesn't commit another crime? Because the answers may not be compatible. If your whole thing is, I really, really, really want this offender to spend the rest of their life behind bars, or to get the maximum sentence, and I don't want any opportunities availed to them, then when they get out, because unless we're going to send people to jail for life for everything, they are going to get out. When they get out, they are more likely to commit a crime because life is significantly harder for them when they get out. There are less jobs available for them when they get out. There are less people who are willing to hire them. There are less places that they're going to be able to make money legitimately. And so if we don't create those opportunities, if we are not actively funneling people away from a life of crime to something more productive, then you're not really going to have any impact on the crime rate. But yeah, I mean, if what you care about more is punishment, they find the candidates that are saying that the status quo is good. All right, so what do we got? Let us look at the overall results. Okay. Okay. So let's look at the results one last time, and then we'll get out of here. I won't hold you much longer. I think we got like one person who's tuned in, and it actually might be me. Is this me? Am I the person who's tuned in? Okay, so Vicky Jones is the judge elect for the 19th JDC, Division O. So congratulations to Vicky Jones. I know that everybody in that race campaigned really, really hard. So I am just kudos to all four of them for putting in the work, because it's not easy. Congratulations to Judge-elect Callie Boudreaux. I know that both of them campaigned hard as well. So congratulations, but just kudos to both of you for putting your hat in the ring. It's not easy to do that. This is not great. 11.6% turnout. And again, I mean, and look at this. Let's see. I was gonna see if I could maybe get the Republican turnout, but I'm not gonna try to figure that out right now. And like we already know what happened in Orleans, but just to see what the final result is. Yeah. So they still haven't reported finally, but especially if the local outlets are calling it, this must mean that whatever precincts are remaining are probably, there's just no way that they're going to get up to, what would it need to be? Yeah, he would need to dang near, he probably need 10,000 more votes just to even get within striking distance. And that would also mean that Moreno would need to like not get any more votes at all. And that's not going to happen. So yeah, I can see why they called it. So congratulations to Mayor-elect Moreno. Congratulations to everybody that ran in that race. Um, one of the things that you will, if you've ever run for office before, especially if you've ever run in like a crowded race, when, and maybe not in this case because it's not particularly close, but if it was a little bit closer, like if she was down to 45 and maybe Royce was up to like 30, obviously going to a runoff in that case, but like when it's really, really close, you start looking at these races, you start looking at these candidates and you're like, come on, y'all. Like what are we doing here? You start looking at this guy right here, got 695, and you're like, come on. Come on. Like, is this helping? Can't, nothing you can do here. There's never anything that you can do here. Republicans will always run a candidate. Democrats won't, but Republicans will always run a candidate. So there's nothing you can do about those 2,000 votes. But yeah, when you run, sometimes you get a little bit bitter. Second and third place, that's closer than I thought. But also, again, I'm not from New Orleans, so there might have been dynamics there that I was unaware of. For all I know, Oliver Thomas was running a really strong campaign, and he might have even been perceived as having more support than he's showing here. I have no idea. And congratulations to Matthew Willard, Representative Willard. I'm trying to think if is he going to get a pay raise? So the state legislature, like I think the salaries for state legislators is like $15,000 a year. And it's intentionally that low. And I get that for some of you, you're going to be like, yeah, we don't need to be paying these politicians, but you also get what you pay for. It is a full-time job, but when you're being paid $15,000 and your staff is being paid pennies, think about how much effort then you put into drafting legislation. Think about how much effort you put into reading up on legislation. Think about how much effort you put into prepping for for a Senate hearing or a House hearing. Like you're just not going to do it. You're just not going to do it unless you are independently wealthy, right? Like if you're independently wealthy and you can kind of take a sabbatical while you do your side gig at the legislature, then that's one thing. But if you're like most people, 15 grand, honestly, it's more of a hindrance, right? Because you have this job that you have to do, but you're not being paid enough to just transition to doing it full time. It's not volunteer. Honestly, like I always think about this. A school teacher could not do this job because the 15 grand doesn't make up for what the added costs of her trying to juggle being a teacher and impossibly trying to also coordinate her schedule with the legislative calendar. When you pay people that low, in effect, you are saying that you need to have another line of revenue coming in order to do this job. And this job in the legislature can't conflict with the job that you have that's bringing in revenue. That's not normal for most people. That was going to be tough for me, but I had talked with my boss about it. I had a few contracts that were lined up where I should, because I work remotely, so it makes it a little bit easier. I have a little bit more flexibility. If need be, I could have just worked out of the state legislature every single day and just tried to have double screens all the time. But most people, that's not realistic for most people. Anybody should be able to run for office because you're representing the people and you're representing the people's interests. So, I want fast food workers to be able to run for office. I want teachers. I want stay-at-home moms. I want the whole I want the whole gauntlet of possible candidates. I want them to run because that's what's representative of our society, of our community. When a former fast food worker is proposing legislation, around the service industry or around minimum wage, that hits a little bit different, right? That comes from a lived experience, and I always think that our legislature should reflect lived experiences. And all of the results are now in 349 precincts of 349, and the numbers stayed the same. Moreno is going to win with 55% of the vote. She will not require a runoff. In fact, let's see. Yeah, it looks like you got a criminal court. Clerk, the clerk of court for the criminal district court. That's going to go to a runoff there. But otherwise, it looks like this race here is going to go to a runoff. This race here going to a runoff. Okay, and no runoffs in Baton Rouge. It does not appear of our two races that anybody's. Yeah, so Vicky Jones won outright, and so did Callie Boudreaux. So at the very least, you guys don't have to hear me chastising you for not showing up to vote for a while. But that also means that you have more prep time. Let's see, when is the next election? It should be the primaries. Yeah, it should be the primaries. And let's see what we got. Okay, so our next elections. Yeah, that's about right. So our next elections will be the congressional primaries. So for the House and the Senate, there's probably some other races for next year, but those will be the headliners. So you have 6 months. You have about 6 months to make sure that you have a plan for the next election. But we got to do better. We got to do better than we've done, man. We got to do better than 10% turnout. We got to do better than 20% turnout. We got to do better than 10 people on Southern's campus voting. Yeah, I didn't even check LSU, but let me do that one time before we get out of here. Okay, so let's look here. Where's LSU? LSU's going to be a little bit. There's more student housing nearby LSU than there is Southern, so LSU is going to be a little bit more difficult. So what we'll probably do is we'll look at. Yeah, let's start. So this is the bottom, right? This is the bottom right here, Old South, and then here we go, LSU. Now, part of this gets a little bit tainted. Well, the professors live over here, so if we just look at precinct 46 and 44, let's do that. Let's look at 46. Yeah, let's just do that to paint with a broad brush. Let's do 40. Oh, you guys can't see what I'm looking at. Sorry. 46 and 44. This is like you have students that live in 42 and 41 and 69, but generally speaking, it's a more apples to apples comparison because this, generally speaking, should capture most of the undergrads that live on or near campus, and that's what I was looking at for Southern. So 46 and 44. So let's look at that. Uh, Yep. All right. So you're looking at 30 votes. Oh, my bad. You guys can't see it. 44, 30 votes. 46, none. And again, for reference, this is 46. So like that's campus. That is the campus. Like that's every student on campus. No students on campus voted. Come on, y'all. Anyways, I've been on here for an hour and a half. You guys don't want to hear anything else from me. Um, as I try to figure this out with the live stream and the election night coverage, we will have a much more polished production in April. But hopefully, hopefully we can provide some useful commentary and perspective and context. Because I want to make sure that people feel like elections are a big deal, because they are. And whatever we have to do to make sure that people are paying attention, they're invested, we will do it. All right, y'all. It has been real. I will. Oh, got like a little cramp there. That's what happens when you're starting to get close to 40. All right. I will